So usually when we picture a martial arts grandmaster, we imagine this very specific, right, like someone meditating on an isolated mountain peak.
Oh, yeah, the classic cinematic trope.
Right. A figure draped in flowing robes, uh, entirely disconnected from modern society, maybe speaking cryptic riddles, and I mean, definitely refusing to engage with the messy reality of the modern world.
It is a very romantic image, for sure, but it inherently suggests that, well, that true mastery requires a total retreat from society.
Yeah.
It implies that if you are a master of a physical art, you basically can't simultaneously be a master of the modern commercial world.
Which is exactly the stereotype we are dismantling today. So welcome to today's deep dive. Our mission for this one is really explore the evolution of Grandmaster G.K. Lee.
And it is a fascinating evolution.
It really is. We are looking at a huge stack of sources today. We've got biographical documents, his organization's 2026 website copy, his meta footprint, and honestly, some totally mind-blowing YouTube analytics.
Yeah, the YouTube numbers are wild.
Crazy, right?
Yeah.
And we're putting all of this together to answer one central question, which is, how does someone achieve absolute, legendary mastery in an ancient physical art and then decide to, completely revolutionize the underlying business model of that art?
Right, because the documents we looked at reveal a man who doesn't just adapt to his environment, he actively engineers it.
Mm-hmm.
The whole arc of his life, I mean, from a childhood in South Korea to building a global organization in 2026, it just shows this continuous pattern, a pattern of recognizing when a system is broken, whether that system is a physical technique or a corporate hierarchy, and actually having the courage to tear it down and rebuild it.
So let's start with the physical foundation.
Yeah.
Because you really cannot understand his business philosophy without understanding how he learned to fight in the first place.
Exactly.
The sources place his beginning in Daegu City, South Korea. He was born in 1957, and he starts training in the second grade. And then, by age 12, he earns his first black belt in Tang Soo Do.
Which is incredibly young for that era.
Right. Now, Tang Soo Do is a very striking heavy art. It's known for rigid, linear power. So earning a black belt at 12, it implies an intense level of physical discipline. It's like a middle schooler getting a master's degree.
That's a great way to put it, yeah.
But, I mean, it is still fundamentally a sporting environment at that age. You are competing for points, maybe impressing judges with your form, right?
Hey, it's exhibition. But that environment fundamentally shifts between 1978 and 1981.
The military years.
Exactly. During his mandatory service in the South Korean Army, he wasn't just doing standard drills like the other guys. He was actually designated as a martial arts instructor for active duty military personnel.
Which is a huge pivot.
Oh, the mechanical shift here is profound. When you are teaching conscripts, the goal completely changes. You are no longer teaching a 12-year-old how to throw a beautiful high-spinning kick for a shiny trophy.
Right, because that doesn't work in the field.
No, you are teaching a soldier how to survive a close-quarters ambush. It's pure survival.
I have to imagine that just strips away all the ego and the flashiness of the art, right? Like, high-flying kicks are great for action movies, but if you are in heavy combat gear, a high kick just leaves you completely off balance and vulnerable.
It leaves you dead. And that is the core mechanism of his transformation right there. In a military context, you have to distill martial arts down to its central nervous system responses.
Gross motor skills?
Yes, gross motor skills under extreme adrenaline, joint breaks, swift, decisive strikes that neutralize a threat immediately. He had to learn how to communicate these literal life-or-death mechanics efficiently to young men who were under immense psychological pressure.
Wow.
So the strict traditionalism he is known for, it wasn't born out of a desire to just look cool. It was forged in an environment where undisciplined movement could literally cost a soldier their life.
Man, that focus on survival over aesthetics is just a perfect lens for what happens next.
Yeah.
So he immigrates to the United States and aligns himself with the American Taekwondo Association, the ATA.
Founded by Eternal Grandmaster H.U. Lee.
Right. And G.K. Lee spends decades climbing the ranks there, becoming an absolute pillar of that massive organization. But because his brain is wired to look for vulnerabilities, thanks to that military crucible we just talked about, he immediately spots a massive structural flaw in how Taekwondo is being practiced in the States.
And the flaw was biological, honestly.
Tell me more about that.
Well, traditional Taekwondo is heavily optimized for explosive, plyometric lower body movements. It requires fast-twitch muscle fibers, incredible hip flexibility, and really resilient knees.
Basically, you need to be young.
Exactly. That is a fantastic system when you were 25 years old.
But when you hit 45 or 50, those explosive jumping kicks start to, tear ligaments.
Precisely. If an art relies entirely on youthful athleticism, it has an expiration date for the practitioner. You just age out of it. And Grandmaster Lee looked at this and realized that for the art to offer lifelong value to actually survive, the physical curriculum had to evolve.
So he takes action.
Right. He spearheaded the creation of a system called ProTech.
Yeah. And our sources detail that ProTech integrated tactical self-defense, joint manipulation, and this really extensive weapons curriculum. He standardized the use of the jongbong, which is a traditional long staff,
Right?
the shang numbak, commonly known as nunchaku, and the katana. Now, I gotta say, looking at this from the outside, adding swords and nunchaku to a kicking art in the U.S. during the late 80s and 90s, I mean, that could easily be interpreted as a cash grab.
Oh,
It
absolutely.
was the era of the ninja movie boom.
Yeah.
You throw some weapons on a flyer, and kids just flock to the dojo because it looks like a cartoon.
It is very easy to view it cynically as a marketing ploy, for sure. But the biomechanics of what he was doing tell a completely different story.
Okay, how so?
Let's look at the jongbang, the long staff. Swinging a staff requires core rotation, shoulder mobility, grip strength, and complex kinetic chaining.
Mm-hmm.
It forces the brain to calculate spatial awareness and timing.
But it doesn't require you to launch your entire body weight into the air and land on a single knee joint.
That is the genius of it. He was preserving the neurological and cardiovascular benefits of martial arts training, but shifting the mechanical load away from the joints that naturally degrade with age.
That is brilliant.
By standardizing this globally, he ensured that a 65-year-old student could walk into a dojo, pick up a weapon, or focus on joint locks, and still experience the deep, engaging progression of mastery. And they could do it without destroying their body. He essentially engineered longevity into the system.
And the irony here is, while he was busy engineering a system so his students could age gracefully, he apparently refused to age at all.
Oh my goodness, yes.
The YouTube analytics we pulled for this deep dive were just staggering. On July 2, 2016, he tests for his 9th degree black belt. He is roughly 59 years old at the time. There is footage of this test, and it has racked up over 10 million views online.
The footage is a masterclass in kinetic energy. If you haven't seen it, it's unreal.
It is genuinely hard to comprehend. He is executing jumping, spinning, multi-strike combinations with the velocity and flexibility of someone like 3 decades younger.
Easily.
He isn't just surviving the test. He is absolutely dominating it. 10 million people watched a 59-year-old man basically defy the laws of biological decline.
Which serves as the ultimate proof of concept for his life's work up to that point, right? He proved that his methods of preservation and discipline actually worked on himself.
Yeah.
And this viral moment essentially acts as the capstone to his ATA career. By 2019, he reaches the absolute summit. He is inaugurated as the 4th presiding Grandmaster of the ATA.
The highest rank.
He holds the highest possible rank, the most prestigious title in one of the largest martial arts organizations on the planet.
So he has the empire. He has the legacy. I mean, this is the moment in the documentary where the music swells, the credits roll, and the man rides off into the sunset.
But that isn't what happens.
No. In his 60s, operating at the peak of a global enterprise, he walks away from the ATA. He abandons the empire he spent decades helping to build.
Walking away from power like that is incredibly rare. But the sources indicate he didn't leave because he was tired. He left because he identified another structural flaw.
Okay, what was it this time?
Well, this time, it wasn't a flaw in the physical biomechanics of a kick. It was a flaw in the economic biomechanics of the organization itself.
And this brings us to the creation of GTMA, Global Traditional Martial Arts. He founds this new organization alongside his wife, Chief Master Kathy Lee.
Yes!
And when you read the GTMA 2026 website copy, the language is deeply revealing. The core philosophy is, quote, love the art, preserve the craft, empower the future. And their mission statement is where tradition and business excellence unite.
That last part is key.
I find this fascinating because, a lot of martial artists view the business side of things as dirty. They think focusing on revenue or business models taints the purity of the art.
That is a very common, yet totally fatal, purist mentality. Grandmaster Lee realized a harsh, unsentimental truth: if a dojo goes bankrupt, the art dies in that community, period.
Yeah, a master who cannot pay rent cannot teach.
Exactly. The legacy vanishes. And in large legacy martial arts organizations, the structure often resembles a massive top-down corporate bureaucracy.
Right, like heavy franchise fees, rigid rules about what you can teach and how you can market, endless red tape.
Yes, the corporate entity thrives, but the individual school owner, the person actually on the floor tying white belts on kids, is often just strangled by the overhead.
Yeah, that's tough.
Grandmaster Lee recognized that the traditional franchise model was breaking the backs of the instructors. So he launched GTMA not just as a new style of martial arts, but as a decentralized support system.
So what does this all mean? He is essentially stepping into the role of a startup founder disrupting a legacy industry.
That's a perfect analogy.
By prioritizing what the website calls progressive business models, GTMA empowers the school owner with autonomy. Like they provide the marketing frameworks, the high-level business counsel, and the curriculum, but they remove that bureaucratic chokehold. They allow the school owner to operate as an agile entrepreneur in their specific local market.
It is a radical shift in perspective for a traditional martial artist. He realized that the greatest threat to traditional martial arts wasn't a lack of discipline in the students, it was bad accounting.
But to save the art, he had to save the business owner. He integrated high-level business integrity directly into their core GSHIM-style curriculum.
And GSHIM, just to clarify for everyone, is a concept that marries traditional roots with continuous growth, right?
Correct. He is basically telling his instructors that running a profitable, sustainable business is just as much a part of their martial arts mastery as their physical technique.
That concept that financial sustainability is a martial art, it completely changes how we view leadership in this space.
It really does.
But, the risk with any executive who starts talking about progressive business models and decentralized startups is that they lose touch with the actual product. They retreat to the boardroom and just look at numbers. So how does this billionaire startup founder mindset actually translate to the mat in a dojo in 2026?
This is where his philosophy of humility over ego becomes highly visible. Because if GTMA was purely a cynical business venture, you would expect the programs to only cater to high-paying elite competitors, right?
But the documents show a deeply localized, very community-focused approach.
Yeah, the program list is proof of that. They aren't just training elite cage fighters. They have Shadow Mugi, which is a preschool program tailored for kids aged 3 to 6. They have Dragon Squad for elementary students, which is heavily focused on character development. And then GTMA Athlete for the teens and adults.
And mechanically speaking, teaching a 4-year-old in a Shadow Mugi class isn't about teaching them how to fight. It's about gross motor skill development, eye contact, and basic focus.
And if you look at the testimonials, the success of these programs isn't measured in tournament medals. We saw quotes from Stacey Quake and Andi Johnson praising the organization for its commitment to character and the deep respect it shows to the school owners.
Yes.
And Daniel Longoria specifically calls it a martial arts organization for martial artists. That culture of respect flows directly from how Grandmaster Lee physically operates within the company.
Which is so unique. He calls himself the eternal student.
Think about the weight of that. You are a 9th-degree Grandmaster. You have a viral video with 10 million views proving you are physically elite. You have founded a global organization. Yet the sources note he actively cross-trains in other disciplines to refine his own knowledge. He refuses to believe he has reached the end of his education.
It is the ultimate antidote to that corporate boardroom isolation you mentioned earlier. The sources show he is constantly traveling, hosting regional seminars, and standing directly on the floor. He isn't analyzing spreadsheets from a distance. He is personally evaluating the ecosystem.
There's this incredible image that forms when you read through these documents. You have the man whose kicks went viral to 10 million people, a true industry visionary, getting down on his knees to adjust the foot position of a 4-year-old white belt in a Shadow Mugi class.
Exactly.
It's like Gordon Ramsay showing up at a local diner to teach a teenager how to hold a spatula just because he loves the craft. He applies the exact same level of hyperfocus to a toddler's stance as he does to evaluating a master-level instructor.
Because to his mind, they are the exact same mechanism. The 4-year-old stance is the foundation of the future of the art. If the foundation is flawed, the business eventually crumbles.
Right.
True quality control requires proximity to the newest beginner. He proves that mastery is not a title you hold over people. It is a responsibility to serve the system from the ground up.
That proximity to the beginner is what keeps the organization alive.
Mhm.
So if you look back at the entirety of this journey, we just see a masterclass in continuous necessary evolution.
Absolutely.
We saw a 12-year-old prodigy in South Korea
Oh,
who had to shed the safety of sport to teach brutal survival tactics to soldiers. We saw an immigrant who recognized that his aging students were destroying their joints, so he engineered a weapons curriculum to save their bodies. And we saw a man reach the absolute peak of an empire, only to realize the corporate structure was suffocating local instructors, so he walked away to build a decentralized system that saved their businesses.
every single pivot was driven by a refusal to let the art stagnate. He viewed tradition not as an anchor to hold you in the past, but as a foundation to build the future upon.
And that is exactly why this deep dive is so relevant to you listening right now. Whether you are learning a new skill, trying to scale a small business, or leading a team through a difficult quarter, Grandmaster Lee's trajectory dismantles the whole idea of an end goal.
Yeah, the top of the mountain doesn't actually exist.
No, reaching the peak of your current field is just the starting line for your next evolution. Remaining an eternal student isn't just a humble catchphrase. It is a mandatory survival strategy.
It requires an honest assessment of your own ego, too. Grandmaster Lee realized that preserving the soul of his martial art meant he had to step out of his comfort zone and master the mechanics of entrepreneurship. He had to understand decentralized revenue models just as intimately as he understood the biomechanics of a strike. So as we wrap up, I want to leave you with a thought to mull over in your own life. Think about your own career or passion. Are you merely practicing your craft in a vacuum, or are you actively doing the uncomfortable work of building the systems required to ensure your work outlives you?
Are you building the systems to ensure your work outlives you? Because if you aren't building a sustainable system, the legacy stops the moment you do. The master on the isolated mountain might look peaceful, but his art dies alone on that peak. The real mastery happens down in the valley, dealing with progressive business models, cross-training, and getting on the floor to adjust a beginner's stance. Thank you for joining us for today's deep dive. Keep questioning the systems around you, keep evolving, and we will catch you on the next one.